Though related with payments, open banking is shifting sand in banking too. Next sessions tackles how open banking is being implemented by the industry. The panelists will be Mücahit Gündebahar from Architecht and Sabri from Electronic Money Association and Anna Maj from Center for Finance Technology and Entrepreneurship.
Hello and welcome to Istanbul Fintech Week. My name is Mücahit Gündebahar. I'm Managing Director of Architecht, which operates its business with financial technology products and services in local and international markets. So we have started a great panel to talk about open banking, PSD2 and beyond, and we have got two valuable guests here, Anna and Fahir. Anna May, who has worked as a seasoned fintech executive. Recently, she is representing as a senator at the World Business Angels Investment Forum and senior lecturer at Center for Finance, Technology and Entrepreneurship. Welcome, Anna.
Hello, everybody. It's my pleasure to be here with you.
Sabri is the Chief Executive of the European Money Association, representing electronic money issuer and innovative payment service provider. Welcome, Fahir.
Thank you very much.
So let's start the show. The concept of open banking turned into a little bit buzzword nowadays. It's a quite popular subject. And open banking is going to become a mainstream thing, and it has already penetrated in certain regions. Simultaneously, I'm sure that the concept of open banking has already positioned itself as the main agenda of many bank executives in the world. It's not the future, it's happening now. Before getting into detail, just a quick introduction. Many people confuse open banking and API platform. But I believe having API gateway and portal is the alphabet of open banking. And open banking is much more than APIs. It is not correct way of saying that I have an API system, so I am doing open banking, which is not right. There must be a concurrent strategy, deep customer understanding, and cultural revolution to fulfill open banking requirements. So, if we start with Anna here, I want to start with a very fundamental question, Anna. What is open banking and why is it important? What is secret sauce of open banking? What are the main pillars of open banking? I know you have some training videos, which I already watched some of them. As a lecturer, let's say, could you please define us what is open banking briefly?
Thank you, Mücahit. And first of all, as you said, open banking is a global phenomenon. So of course, there are markets that are regulatory driven and there are regulation framework in place, like Europe, of course, with PSD2. This is how it started. But basically, there are also markets that are like industry driven without any regulatory framework in place yet, at least. So of course, if we talk about Europe, there is also Singapore, there is Australia, there is Latin America joining this open banking game. So we have to underline here, this is a global phenomenon. It's happening in many geographies across the world. But if we talk about open banking, we should take this beyond compliance perspective. So PSD2, of course, enabled the open banking revolution in terms of opening up the APIs. But as we definitely know, open APIs are not enough, and open APIs are not even specific to banking, because these are the big technology players that really just open APIs, and they use the APIs to create new services and new use cases, new applications. So if you look beyond compliance, of course, open banking is about using the potential of banking-driven data and building new models in terms of business value proposition, customer value proposition, and of course, in terms of partnerships. So this is a strong business agenda standing behind that. And as you said as well, so open banking is probably on everybody's agenda. And definitely this is beyond open APIs. So the question here is how to use banking data effectively, how to build the customer value proposition, and how to build the business value proposition in a nutshell.
Okay, thank you very much. Tahir, the well-known fact that open banking products provide a wide range of portfolio, innovative options, and customer experience, and enable them to create different channels to reach to the customers. You may have some kind of regularity ahead as well. Some of the banks are still conservative in meeting these innovations. Do you share the idea that rising customer experience trend and customer expectations trigger these banks, these conservative banks, to collaborate with fintech ecosystem? What do you think?
Thank you. So I think this is probably a good continuation of what you had mentioned before and had mentioned before after you. I think the drive for open banking has got to come from compelling products. And I think if there are products on offer that consumers like and they want to make use of, this will drive banks that maybe don't offer the same kind of interfaces, the same kind of functionalities for developers. They'll be left behind. They'll find that their own customers are frustrated because they can't make use of these apps, of these useful services, and will be pushed into offering those APIs. So I think the real likely driver for this is going to be compelling consumer and merchant value propositions that app developers bring to market. And I think we'll find then the banks will either move very fast or they'll be left behind, and just customers will move to banks that can offer those functionalities. That's kind of my take. I'm not sure that open banking is any different from any other phenomenon in the sense that you have to give consumers something that they really want, or merchants that they really want, and gives them value. And then everything falls into place.
Yeah, with open banking concept, customer expectation comes first, I guess, right?
Yeah, so. I mean, if you think, I mean, I don't know about the rest of the world, but certainly in Europe, the driver was, so with open banking, we divided it up into account information services, people downloading information, doing something with it, and then presenting it back to the user, or something along those lines. Conventionally, that's about aggregation. I just collect all the data from your credit cards and your mortgage and your payment account, and then I present you your net worth or what you've been doing, and this is the added value. The real value is in choosing certain types of transactions and then adding value to that and presenting it to the consumer. Okay, your gas bill and your water bill and etc., they cost you this much, and I can see this is how much you pay per year. I think I can save you this much if you do this instead, for example. And on PIS, on payment initiation services, a lot of the value was around the limitations of cards and merchants, making it easier for merchants to push consumers into bank transfers as an alternative to cards. Now that already is being, that value proposition is being eroded already. And I think people who, service providers who want to use this are going to have to innovate and come up with more interesting consumer propositions, maybe based around the consumer instead of the merchant. So that's my take.
Yeah, okay. Thank you very much. So Anna, The main objective of open banking, as we all know, is to make the financial market more competitive and foster innovation across players through new services. As a result, we will have enhanced customer experience and multiple options in the financial market. It seems that customers and end users gain more from the open banking phenomenon. So we are moving from open banking landscape to open finance landscape. And the development of open banking concepts may affect many other industries additional to financial market. Which sectors, which industries will be exposed more to this disruption? What do you think?
Thank you for this question. And of course, open banking and the objective standing behind that was to make the entire banking or financial services market more transparent, but also more innovative and more competitive. And of course, allow for new entrants to join this, this game, as you said, and definitely open finance is a kind of vision, because we have to realize that PSD2 in Europe was introduced like last year, and of course just banks had to be compliant, and we talk about that open banking is beyond the compliance, how to build their sustainable business models, and of course how to monetize the data stand behind these models. But definitely we are still in a stage, I would say, that we have to stabilize this open banking game, and that we have to see the benefits from the account aggregation and from the payment initiation services, and to leverage it. And of course, this is the fundamentals thing, and this is the beginning of the open banking and how it can transform into open finance. So of course, if we open up the perspective of open finance, there are other services and other banking products that should be covered, like deposits, credits, of course, and wealth management, even insurance, of course. So definitely there's an entire range of services that we can cover. And of course, we already know in the industry, there are some attempts towards PSD3, of course, and there is the advisory group in the UK from Financial Conduct Authority, so the regulatory body, to tackle this issue of open banking and how to integrate other banking services into the open banking game. So looking beyond this perspective. And of course, this is not only about the banking services, we can also integrate other sectors. We can also absorb other sectors, for example, insurance, but also healthcare or retail. And you mentioned at the beginning that I'm lecturing a course on open banking and platforms in finance. And I'm very much focused on the new entrants, how they can create value here. And this is exactly what I also teach and talk about in my course. This is entire specialization. So it's not only the videos you've seen, this is like a sneak peek. This is entire specialization about open banking and platforms. And I'm really keen about opening up this perspective of open finance, even towards the open data ecosystem here.
Yeah. Okay. So fire. Let's look at a little bit of technology side of open banking. Big tech companies have a vast amount of data, products and services. They have a massive customer base as well. They have open data platforms, they have communities, they have everything. They, most importantly, they have ecosystem experiences. How do you see the future for them, for tech giants, from open finance perspective? Are those guys a potential threat for the incumbents? What do you think?
It's an interesting question. If you'd asked me the question maybe 20 years ago and said, are the technology companies a threat to the banks? The technology companies would have been the mobile network operators. We were talking about Vodafone and Orange and others, and we were saying, are they going to become the big banks? Are we going to have a Vodafone bank? And this kind of thing. And it didn't happen. The kind of Google and Apple and a few others have been doing payments on the side, but generally they've been doing it to enable their own products and services. So you could say that maybe Apple stepped a little bit, but they stepped beyond that with Apple Pay and Google as well, with Google Pay. But generally speaking, they haven't gone into this space wholeheartedly. And I think part of that is because it's not a straightforward change. It involves a very big cultural shift. If you're a technology company, it's you innovate, you find a new solution, and you just put it out there, and then it happens. If it's a regulated product, if you have to be regulated as an institution, the cultural approach to this is really quite different. And I think they've got the skill sets, and I don't think I would dismiss them at all. In fact, I think they're heading in that direction for sure. But they've got the AI and machine learning and API and technology skill sets, and they've dipped their toes in the water of financial services. But I wouldn't see it as a done deal, and I wouldn't see it as a very straightforward migration from technology to financial services. There's a huge amount of kind of administrative, regulatory overhead that goes with it, which is not it's not straightforward. I think it takes time, particularly if you're going to offer services on a global basis. It's really quite complex.
Yeah. As you mentioned, banking is a heavily regulated industry, right? It is very hard to get in, I guess.
Banking and payments, anything that involves you either having control over or actually holding people's money, is going to be subject to regulation. And you could look at the reaction of the central banks to Libra as an example of how things can cause people to become quite nervous.
Yeah, I see. So Anna, we all know that nearly every bank, including major incumbents, want to do some API business, open banking business, and some of them have fancy digital strategies with prominent consulting firms. Some of them have API portals, gateways, but I believe it's not enough. Open banking doesn't happen overnight. I mean, doesn't happen with fancy consultancy services. It needs a cultural movement. But for the giants, for giant incumbents, this might be a problem. It is easier to turn the steer of a small ship, but if it's a big ship, you need some superpowers, let's say. So the question is, giant incumbents have thousands of employees, millions of customers, and they have rooted products, services, operational processes, outstanding loans for decades. What do you think is the biggest challenge for those guys, for incumbents, to adopt to the open banking world? How do you see the future of these banks?
Of course, there are a lot of challenges, but we should remember that incumbent banks, they also have like crucial assets here in this game. They have a customer base that is already well established. They also have the position in the banking. And of course, new entrants, they are just starting from almost nothing in terms of customer base, and they have to acquire these customers, and they have to gain a reputation. And of course, banks as regulated organizations, they already have the reputation and they have the customer trust that we can't really ignore here. So I would say there are a lot of assets on the incumbent side. And some years ago, we used to ask this question, who will win in this game? Will be the incumbents or it will be new entrants, fintech startups? But I just really see it, and I know it from the market because I built a lot of collaboration models between incumbent banks and fintech startups. And of course, if you ask me about building the strategy for the incumbents, this is what I was doing and I'm still doing. So this is about the collaboration. This is one of the pillars of the open banking. So if we talk about collaboration, there are partnerships with fintech startups. So it can be a win-win scenarios when both parties, both stakeholders can really earn and win this game together. So of course, fintechs, they really want to partner with banks because they have the customer base established and they have this reputation. And of course, new entrants are very much agile. They are also very much focused in the way they approach them and they solve some banking or financial services problems. And of course, how they enhance customer experience, for example, how they can really just bring this customer experience to the next level. And we have a lot of examples of the fintechs, but also very successful stories or benchmark use cases of the incumbents, how they enter this game. So for example, Yolt, this is a spin-off of ING, and it's a very successful PFM account aggregation company operating in this market. So definitely I see the potential for both, for incumbents and new entrants to coexist and to build partnership collaboration models.
Yeah, okay. The last question I have for both of you, starting from Fire. Regarding open banking, what is the next after open banking? Where are we going as financial industry players? Of course, we are not a future fortune teller, right? But how do you see the future regarding open banking landscape, and what is the next big thing in this field for you? What do you think? Fire, please.
So I think there's a number of different currents flowing at the same time. So open banking has the potential of opening up access and functionality to create new products and services based on existing data, transaction data, but also on choices that consumers can make at the point of payment or ahead of payment. You know, which product or service am I going to use in order to make a particular payment? This can inform me in some way and facilitate it. In parallel, we've got the big kind of crypto asset, cryptocurrency development moving along almost separately. But that's coming in, that's now being regulated. We have MiCA in Europe, and we have a number of parallel developments around the world where stable coins in particular are being made kind of acceptable and regulated and brought home, if you like. So the idea of using some of these products for payments is becoming more acceptable, I think, in a general sense, for a more a wider retail population. I think that would happen if they're regulated. Investors are more likely to step in. The third thing which is happening in parallel and has been gathering pace, and again, probably accelerated by Libra, is central bank digital currencies. That has the potential of disrupting all of these things in a huge way, because you may not think of cash as being a particular competitor to bank, to all of these payment products, but it is actually. It is a competitor. So if you think of cash now is electronic, you can see that actually it's definitely got the potential of creating quite a lot of change, a lot of disruption. Whether it's the fact that I can pay with something which is backed by the central bank versus it's backed by a bank or backed by an e-money institution, or the fact that the banks are going to depend probably on the private sector to bring it to customers. And how will they do that? How will they do that in competition with their own products? What's the technology? How does the bank control that, the central bank control the technology to ensure it's not forged, you know, to ensure that they still have control over the currency wherever it is, and at the same time have lots of third parties deal with it. So I think a lot, if you read a lot of the papers that are coming out, if you see some of the webcasts and so on, they really don't go into a lot of that detail, and that's where the interesting stuff is going to be. So 3 very different currents at the same time. Yeah. Very interesting to see where you can add, you know, smart contracts and other stuff to that.
Okay. What about you, Anna? What is the next big thing in this field? What do you think?
So definitely, if we are talking about open banking and beyond, we touched upon open finance. I would say this is the part of a bigger or wider open data ecosystem, and definitely we should look into this direction. So absorbing various verticals and various sectors. This is the first trend. The second trend I would mention here, this is towards collaborative ecosystem and how you can connect the dots, just covering different stakeholders, not only fintechs, not only incumbent banks, but also tech startups, tech players and merchants, retailers, even the governmental public sector. So this is about this collaborative ecosystem. Third thing definitely is about digital payments. So I will just build upon what Tara said. So, but not about crypto or digital currencies, but definitely with open banking, we have this account-to-account payments enabled. Of course, they existed before, but now they are on the rise as an alternative to credit-based transactions. So definitely this is not only about account-to-account, this is about fast, instant payments, about subscriptions that you can also enable with use of accounts. There's an entire range of payments, account-to-account payments, A2A payments, opening up. So this is the trend towards digital payments and cashless payments, in generally speaking. And last but not least, I would definitely mention the customer experience, because it will be changing a lot. And of course, this is thanks to the new entrants, new players, but definitely incumbent banks are also in this game, and they are just very much reacting and trying to enhance this customer experience. And this will be in a search of the new interface. So if we are talking about invisible payments, we can also talk about invisible banking, something that's really happening in the background, and customer can use other services and pay for other services. So this is also about embedded banking. This is also about embedded crediting. With payment, you can just directly go with crediting facility. There's a lot of examples, and of course there are some new players in this field. So I will look at, once again, just to recap, the open data ecosystem, collaborative ecosystem, and as well as digital payments and new customer experience and better customer experience with a new customer interface.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank
Anna and Fire, thank you for your precious participation and valuable ideas you just shared with us. Thank you for all listening to us. I hope you enjoyed the show. I wish you very best. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me.
Thank you. Thank you for the invitation. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you very much. See you soon, I hope.